Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about something a lot of us probably done without even realizing it. Buy now, pay later, or BNPL. My topic is basically buy now, regret later, looking at the behavioral science behind why BNPL is so popular in Malaysia, and honestly, why it can be get us into trouble. I'm Lugendran, metric number MC2607435507, and this is Human Behavioral and Decision Making Assignment. Okay, so quick recap in case you are not familiar with BNPL. Let's you buy something now and pay it later in installment. Usually interest free if you pay on time. In Malaysia, we got Atome, SPayLater, Split, and Grab PayLater. You probably seen this at checkout on Shopee or Lazada. Here's the wild part though. Bank Negara actually reported that BNPL usually among Malaysian aged 18 to 35 grew over 200% between 2020 and 2022. That's a huge, and the problem isn't BNP itself, it's a pupils take multiple plans at once without realizing how much they actually own in total. So the first behavioral concept I want to bring up is present bias or hyperbolic discounting. Fancy term, but basically it just means we prefer a smaller reward now over big reward later, even when waiting is the smartest move. Think about it, RM 600 today feel like a lot, but split into 3 payments of RM 200, suddenly it feels totally manageable, even though it's literally the same amount of money. Our brain just really likes now and really discount later. A good example, a student buys 499 ringgit Nike shoes as pay later during the 11/11 sale, telling herself, I'll pay it off next month. But by next month, she's used BNPL two more times and now she's over budget. That decision felt totally fine in the moment. That's prison bias in action. So the second concept is optimist bias plus bounded rationality. Optimist bias is basically us to think it it will be fine. I'll be definitely have the money next month even when we said the exact same word last month. And bounded rationality from Simon back in 1955 is this idea that we don't actually process everything perfectly. When we just make good enough decision with whatever limited info and brain power we got in the moment. Put those together and you get this fresh grade in Cal is paying RM under 50 ringgit for furniture on Atome and RM 80 ringgit for clothes on SPayLater, RM under 20 ringgit for a gadget on Split. Each one feels affordable on its own, but add it up and calculate that's around RM 350 ringgit a month, which is 35% of a 1,000 ringgit starting salary. Here actually sat down he actually sat down and added it all because each decision was made separately. Now let's talk about what actually influenced this behavior, starting with cognitive bias, specifically anchoring and framing. Ever notice how SPayLater shows RM33 a month in huge font and the RM99 total is tiny underneath. That's not an incident, that's anchoring. Your brain look into the RM33 but not the real total. And perhaps it's like pay in 3 easy installments. That's framing debt as a convenience instead of what it actually is, which is a loan. Now on to risk because of BNPL platform advertise zero interest. People don't even register it as a debt, and loss aversion flip on its head here. Missing a flash sales feels like a bigger loss than taking on the debt itself. The numbers back this up to on 1 in 3 BNPL users miss a payment in the past years. And get this, 78% of them still call themselves financially responsible right before that happened. Next up, time and social influence. On the time side, the reward is immediate. Your item show up today, but the cost is delayed, spread over the month. So we make these promises to our future self. I'll manage it later. Expect future us run into the exact same present bias all over again. You see this a lot during Ramadan sales, spending spikes, and by shawl, people are hit with repayment for stuff they barely even remember buying. On the social media side, herd behavior, social proof like X people bought this with SPayLater today. And honestly, a big one is TikTok and Instagram BNPL haul videos. It's make carrying multiple BNPL plans looks normal, even aspirational, and in a collectivist culture like ours. Going against that trend can feel socially awkward, awkward. So let's zoom out. What's the actual problem here? Malaysia youth are racking up unsustainable BNPL debt because they underestimated how much they own across multiple plans, and that's driven by present bias, optimist bias, and this social normalization we just talk about. And the numbers are pretty straight. BNPL transactions jumped from 500 million in 2020 to over 2 billion ringgit in 2022. So 67% of users are between 18 and 35. On average, people juggling 2.3 per active BNPL plans at the same time. And the complaints to AKPK about BNPL went up 43% in just 1 year. So why does this problem even exist? Two theories explain it very well. First, prospect theory from Kahneman and Tavisi. We judge things relative to a reference point, not in absolute terms. 3 payment of RM200 hides the fact that it's really RM600. The reference point becomes the deal, not the debt. Second, nudge theory from Thaler and Sustain. BNPL platforms are built with default settings, installment first, display, one-click checkout, countdown timers, all designed to remove friction from spending. But there is zero friction added on repayment side. It's not an accident, it's designed that way. Okay, so how do we do actually fix this issue? I have got two solutions. First, a mandatory total depth dashboard. Basically, before you make any new BNPL purchases, the app show your real-time total commitment across all your plan, not just the next installment. Bank Negara already has the power to mandate this under the Financial Service Act 2013. This directly counters that anchoring bias we talk about. Second, a cooling off period, a mandatory 24 hours wait for any BNPL purchase over RM200, and during that time you see your full repayment schedule. This gives your brain time to move past the excitement of the purchase and actually think it through. The UK tried something similar and cut down impulsive commitment by 20 to 30%. Now, is it actually okay to use behavioral science to influence people like this? There is two sides to this. The case for this is called libertarian paternalism. Nobody's banning NPL. You are just adding visibility and a bit of time to think. If platforms are already nudging people toward depth, it's fair for regulator to nudge back the way others do. The case against well, it is still kind of paternalizing, right? And there is a real risk of called nudging washing, where companies or regulator claim there is helping, but the underlying system still designed to push spending. My take, maybe I think it's come down to whether the nudge is transparent and actually serves the pupil's long-term well-being, not someone's profit. And I argue, I argue a debt dashboard and a cooling off period pass the test because they are just adding information and time, not taking away anyone's choice. Alright, to wrap up a bit of my personal reflection, the biggest thing I learned is that irrational financial behavior isn't some personal failure. It is predictable, it's systematic, and honestly, it affects everyone, not just people who are bad with money. That really shifted how I think about it. The fix isn't just be more disciplined, it is design system that actually work with our brain function, not against it. This assignment genuinely changed how I shop now. Whenever I see an installment price on Shopee or Lazada, I actually pause and mentally convert it and back to real total, and I check that others payment I already having running. That small habit has already stopped me from making at least two purchases I probably wouldn't regret it. And honestly, the biggest challenge for me was connecting these kind of abstract academic theories, prospective theories, hyperbolic discounting to something real that related to what help was starting from stuff I could actually observe around me, like friends using SPayLater or those TikTok videos and then working backward to figure it out which theory explaining. Once I did that, it just clicked. So yeah, that's the BNPL buy now regrets later. Thanks.